All right, I think we're live. So welcome everyone to another Matt Maran Motoring live stream here on the Matt Maran Motoring YouTube channel. Hope you're all having a great weekend and had a great week here. And thank you all so much for joining in here in the live stream. So like all the other usual live streams, we're going to go for about 2 hours. I'm going to give priority answering to anyone who is a member. They are the ones with the green usernames there, as well as anyone who does a super chat or super thanks. Those will get priority answering. But otherwise, we'll get through as many comments and questions here as we can. But I see we have a bunch of people who have already joined in. Thanks for joining in, Brian, Kevin, Trucking Car Guy, Dave, TFI, PW, and Kyle and Raphael. Thanks so much for joining in, everyone. And I see everyone saying where they're from here, so that's fun. We got Kevin from Lakeland, Florida, and Trucking Car Guy from Arizona. Dave is from middle of a cornfield in Nova Scotia. That's awesome. Thanks for watching. It's so cool. Everyone's Vancouver here for TFI, and Kyle from New Jersey here. It's so fun to see where everyone's from. I really want to get to Vancouver someday, by the way. It seems like a really cool city, and I actually just had someone recently offer me a bunch of really cool cars in Vancouver. It's so far away from me, but I'm really hoping to someday try out Vancouver for sure. But anyway, yeah, we'll get right into the questions here. I see Jazz says, Matt, I've been to the Apple store twice and Lexus dealership twice. Neither can help that Apple CarPlay isn't working. Many are in my situation per Lexus dealer, and they said no solution. That's so strange. Yeah, Jazz sent me a message about that previously, and I don't know. I guess there was some weird software update with Lexus that messed up CarPlay, which is really something think they would have like checked, before they pushed out the update. I don't know if it's some glitch or something in the update or what, but that is strange. And yeah, I have no clue. I'm sure that that's already been escalated up to the corporate level. So I'm guessing someone's working on that because that's a big deal and not something that would just go through the cracks and not get attention. So I'm hoping that it'll get fixed for you soon there, Jazz, but sorry, it's still an issue. I see everyone else joining in here too. MDKN and Ludicrous Fool, Guardian Fook. Chris is from Delaware, he says. Guardian's from Texas. Thanks for joining in. Ludicrous says he's from Massachusetts. So fun to hear where everyone's from here. Double Strike says, evening, Matt. Just got back from 3 days at the U.S. Air Force Museum in Dayton. Highly recommended. Yeah, I was there probably at this point at least 10 years ago. Maybe it's closer to even like 15, but really cool. Dayton's a really cool airport, or as far as the aircraft museum. And what else isn't there's something else about Dayton. I there's a few people I know near Dayton as well, and so I think I can't remember. I was there because it's not too far from Cincinnati, I think, if I remember correctly, and I was in that area couple of years ago. And anyway, yeah, really cool museum. Totally agree. And thanks for joining in, Double Strike. Fook says, hi, Matt. Sorry I missed the past two live streams. Glad to be here today. Thanks for joining in. Hugo says, hey, Matt, sorry I've missed the last live feed, but any word on the new Ram Dakota? No, nothing really. I mean, I talked about it's now, like a little over 2 weeks ago in the weekly update about the future plans that were in the union contracts. So that didn't reveal everything, but some of the stuff. And they said multiple mid-sized trucks, plural. So that would lead me to believe at least one thing from Ram coming, and maybe either a new Gladiator or something else. But there was multiples mentioned there, but I believe they said those weren't coming online till like 2028, if I remember correctly, or 2026. Excuse me. Either way, it's going to be a while. So it sounds like there isn't a new Dakota super close. We'll see. Maybe they bring the Rampage here a little bit sooner, but as far as the actual full-blown mid-size truck, it'll probably be a little while. So I wouldn't hold your breath for that. There's a lot of really great new options in the mid-size truck segment, as you're well aware, Hugo. So I'd probably just try and sift through those instead of waiting for a Ram, because I think it's going to be a long ways out for that still. Wheatman, thanks for joining in. He says he's from Sacramento. That's awesome. I will actually be flying into the Sacramento airport in January for the first time ever for a program, and it's not going to be in Sacramento. Everyone loves doing stuff in Napa, so I'll be going to Napa, but it's an interesting change. This car company's deciding to, instead of fly us all into SFO like we usually do, which makes the drive to Napa like even more miserable because of all the traffic and stuff, they wanted to either do Sacramento. Originally, they wanted to fly into Oakland, and I only fly Delta, and Delta doesn't fly to Oakland. It would have been a pain. Thankfully, they offered up Sacramento instead. So I'll be. I don't know if I've actually ever been to Sacramento proper before, so probably my first time, and first time for the airport at least. But anyway, thanks for joining in, Wheat Man. And MDKN says, went on a road trip to New York today. Did a whopping 30 mpg on the Kona N. Wasn't liking the rain, though. It was slipping a few times at highway speeds. Interesting. Yeah. I'm kind of curious. Those have Pirelli summer tires, if I remember correctly. If so, I mean, everyone has different opinions maybe on Pirellis, but I think most of them are junk. I know even in the Kona N DCT that I had as a press car for a week, that thing like could not hook up in the rain either. And I think it's just, I don't want to like make a blanket statement about Pirellis, but every time I've had an experience with Pirelli tires, they've all been crap. They're never super good. I mean, there's some that are decent, but obviously, a brand new car, it doesn't make sense to swap tires. So I'm sure you'll just, deal in the meantime. But, I would say you might have a better luck with a different kind of tire whenever the time comes, which sounds like it might be sooner rather than later if it's, burning through tires, even in the rain. But thanks for joining in, and hope the road trip was fun, though. Otherwise, they're MDK. And Trent Car Guy says he moved away from Delaware myself a couple months ago. Crazy. And Raphael says there was a lot of good stuff on the weekly update. I absolutely love the AMG CLE 53. Yeah, I think that's actually a pleasant surprise. I was expecting, 4 cylinders, just like the C-Class, and then we get the 6-cylinder, which is a nice surprise. So, we'll see when it's actually coming, since they don't do the model years, and it's still kind of a real head scratcher for me. But yeah, I think CLE 53 looks great. Hopefully sound pretty good. And I'm excited for that one. Although I'm probably not going to review it. Every time I review a Mercedes on this channel, it gets no views. So like, they're one of the companies where like, I personally like a lot of their products. Beth is a huge Mercedes fan, but like, I'm almost to the point of like quitting reviewing Mercedes altogether, because it's just like, the views always are terrible on them. So don't hold your breath for a CLE review from me. But who knows? Maybe something will change or something. I don't know, and I'll just want to do it. But anyway, Dave says, I'm still hoping for a 5th gen Camaro. With prices here are still about 10K more than pre-COVID. Are they more reasonable in the USA? I feel like Camaro prices, especially now that everyone knows that there's no new gen coming, at least anytime super soon, I feel like they've kind of stabilized. And I was even talking to someone that owned a C7 on this media drive I was on this week, and he said that like even C7 prices have kind of leveled off and aren't like dropping as much anymore, which was news to me. So I mean, I don't know. I feel like all the GM muscle car stuff, since everyone's like even with the C7, everyone's like, there's still a lot of people that, they know they're never going to get a manual Corvette again. They know they're never, going to get a front engine rear-wheel drive Corvette again. So like the C7s are now like starting to become collectible in a certain group of people. And I think same thing with, the 5th gen Camaros, 6th gen Camaros. I don't expect any of those to depreciate much more. I mean, obviously, as more time passes and more people put more miles on them, you'll have more higher mileage examples out there to bring the prices down a little bit. But as far as, if you look at a comparable, 60,000 mile Camaro today versus, a few years from now, it might not change much, might even appreciate. I don't know. It could still depreciate. I don't have a crystal ball here, but I wouldn't hold your breath and wait out for, some type of nice decrease on Camaros, unless, something, crazy happens with an actual recession or something like that. But otherwise, yeah, I'm pretty sure, prices should stay pretty stable for those, is my guess. And Fook says he's from Oklahoma City. That's awesome. Thanks for joining in, Fook. Trent Car Guy says, with the 14-speed Toyota's working on, we are actually getting into a full-on Fast and Furious mode now. Yeah, and that's what everyone's been saying, and it's totally true. And that could be fun, though, for sure. I'm very excited to hopefully try that out if they actually put it into a production car. And Hugo says, if you're ever here at the DMV, I'll take you to some good Peruvian restaurant and take a ride in your Bullet. Yeah, it'll be fun. I actually was able to give a ride in the Bullet to the owner of the WRX that I reviewed, a couple weeks ago there. He had never been in anything that was that high horsepower, never had been in a Mustang before. And so after I had been finished filming a WRX, I was like, do you want to go for a quick spin? Yeah, I can't talk tonight. Quick spin in the Bullet. And so I gave him a quick little ride, and it seemed like he really enjoyed it. He was really impressed with it. I mean, it's a fun car. I guess I think I have kind of gotten a little, not jaded, but I just have gotten used to higher horsepower stuff versus me like getting super giddy over like in a Civic Si 10 years ago. If you watch my early reviews, so for me, even with the Bullet, I'm used to it. But he was getting pretty good kick out of it. So that was fun to give someone their first Mustang experience, and the 7,500 RPM red line and all that. It's just always a blast. And obviously, Austin says, "Hey Matt, do you see Fiat bringing an electric 500 Abarth to the States? If the red version is already 35 grand, what would we expect? 45 for the Abarth? Abarth? Yeah, I'd say for the Abarth, I think there's a reasonable chance it'll come here, just because they already bothered to legalize the regular version. Why not bring the Abarth over? I think there's no different certification engine wise since it's an EV. It can only help their case, is my guess, unless, I'm sure it would be put on the back burner. If it's super hot in Europe, we'll get the scraps of whatever they decide to throw our way, in a few years. So it might not be super soon. But I feel like, especially now in the electric age where you don't have to certify different engines and stuff, it probably is going to be a lot easier to get, a lot of imported performance stuff that otherwise would have been maybe kept out or whatever. So I think there's a good chance we'll get it at some point. As far as price, yeah, I'd say, 45 might be a little high because, with a 35 grand for the red version, that's already, pretty well equipped 500. It might not be fully loaded. It's not the designer versions. They have the different Italian designer brands that have done, versions in Europe and stuff. So there's certainly some room for 500 E's to go higher, but I don't think it's going to crack 40 for a regular version. And the Abarth isn't going to have the designer stuff and the fancy leather seats and all that. So I feel like I would like to optimistically, think that there'd be like a 40 grand Abarth, which is still a lot for what is likely going to be. I can't remember what the Abarth specs are. What is it, like 250 horsepower or something? I don't know. But, it's a lot. They're all going to be a lot of money for, not much performance. But it's going to be a cool, unique choice, and could be the first electric hot hatch if they beat Mini to the punch with importing it. We'll see. But I'm excited for the 500E. I'm probably one of like 5 people in the States that are actually excited about it. But I'm I'm one of the 5. I think it's going to be great, and I'm glad to hear you're interested in it as well, Austin. And Trent Carga says, "I've driven semis with less gears than the 14 speed in the Toyota." Rev Match, thanks so much for joining in, Eric. Rev Match TV. Sorry it took me forever to get to your comment there, but thanks so much for joining in. Great stuff on his channel, especially if you're a fan of the GR86 and the Supra. He tracks them. He's in the 86 Cup. He just finished up, I believe, the season of that. Super knowledgeable. He was actually a really good resource whenever there was all the people freaking out about the RTV stuff or the oil starvation issue in the GR86s and the BRZs. And he's like, all of us guys are tracking them, and it's not really something to really worry about. And it kind of I guess brought a little bit of sanity to that conversation, at least as far as, because I've been hearing all this gloom and doom, and it was good to hear that there's a few outliers and it wasn't hopefully too big of a deal. But anyway, thanks so much for joining in, Eric. And yeah, definitely everyone go check out his channel if you want to get some really good insight there on especially track insights. But he also does regular car reviews and all kind of stuff as well. And always fun. We've paired up. We were on the Prius Prime launch last year, or that was actually this past spring. I'm already thinking in 2024 terms. But anyway, thanks so much for joining in, Eric. Hope you're having a good weekend as well. Double Strike says, "Here's a scary one. I took my S6 and hit an oil patch on a side street and almost went head on into another car at 35 mile per hour. Missed by literally 2 inches. Yikes. Glad you came out okay on that one. That's wild. And I guess it's a combination of luck and maybe some quick reflexes there. So kudos to you as well. But man, crazy stuff. B. Mitchell says, "Good choice, flying Delta only. I generally use them more often, not as I'm far from one of their terminals." Oh, you're not far from one of the terminals. Got it. Yeah. And MSP, I fly through there all the time. I flew through there again this week. Really, I love the Minneapolis airport. It is nice and chill. It's definitely a little more walking than some of the others, but it's really one of my favorite airports. I kind of avoid it in the wintertime sometimes because I'm a little nervous about having snow related hiccups with connections and stuff. But Minneapolis is one of my favorite connecting airports. It's so nice. And Delta's treated me well. Not sponsored, wish it was, but I've been basically loyal to them ever since I started doing the press trips. and the freaking flyer status and all that has been pretty good, and it's just they've always treated me pretty well. They're not perfect, I had a delay on my one flight home on Friday night, which was not great. I didn't get home till like 2 a.m. because of that, but that's just doing those late flights, you're always getting the brunt of all the stuff that happened throughout the day, and so it's always a little sketchier. But anyway, I love Delta, and so yeah, glad to hear you like him as well, B. Mitchell. MD Can says, I was actually running junk Kumo all seasons. Got to get Michelin all seasons, or Continental says Kumo suck. Okay, yeah, I've heard mixed things about some Kumos. I guess it depends on which one and the kind of applications and all that. But okay, yeah. Probably not top tier though. I'm guessing. And Hugo says, I've never seen you review a lot of Mitsubishi vehicles, maybe an Evo or Eclipse. Yeah, I've done all the sporty Mitsubishi stuff, stayed away from all the usual ordinary stuff. But Hugo, if you have seen the most recent upload schedule for what's coming here this month, there is another Mitsubishi on there, so check that out if you're curious in the member posts. And a Ludicrous Fool says the C60 or C36 and C32 AMG models had 6-cylinder engines and a inline six for the first and supercharged for the latter. Yeah, I mean, there was some great. I mean, Mercedes has done all kinds of awesome 6-cylinders, so I think the CLE is great that have the 6-cylinder. I don't think anyone's complaining about it. Obviously, I'm sure people would love a V8 still, but that's usually been the 63 territory anyway. We will see what comes with a 63 version of the CLE, but for the 53, I think the 6-cylinder is great. I haven't heard a single complaint about that, so I'm very excited they went with that. But anyway, sorry, Hugo, I missed your super chat as well. He said, did you heart the Toyota, or did you hear that Toyota has to pay 60 million fines for screwing customers? Unbelievable how the most reliable brand can go that low. I think I heard that they got fined, and I can't remember the details of the specifics, so I'm not able to give an intelligent response on that. I don't remember the details and the specifics. From what I gathered, it seemed like it was just like them selling or letting the dealer sell accessories, which seems like something that all dealers do, like all brands. So I didn't really get the whole situation there. I didn't really look into it a whole lot, but yeah, I mean, it's good to see that, if there's a law there that they were breaking or whatever, that it was enforced, and, everyone's on a level playing field for sure. It's got to keep it fair. And let me see. So other questions here. B. Mitchell says, concur on the POS Pirelli opinion. Oh, yeah, on my last 2 Mustangs, but within 10,000 miles, they're junk. And not only are they like trashed really fast, but like I remember when the S550s first came out, especially the GTs, and they had the Pirellis on them, even for the performance pack versions. Like there were so many people that were like it wasn't even freezing temps. It was just like wet summer roads, and people were like losing control in their Mustangs because of just like those tires had no grip. And I had Pirellis, which I can't remember which of my Mustangs came with Pirellis. I think all of them came with its stock. Yeah, and they were always just not the best, as far as, I mean, I didn't really push all my other Mustangs very much, so it wasn't a big deal, but yeah, never been super impressed with Pirellis, and they're not cheap either, so it's like a lose-lose. And Raphael says, oh, I'm in Ohio, 32 degrees, and looking out the window at a good bit of snow coming down. Oh, that's fun, depending on how you feel about snow, I guess. I love snow, so it's always exciting to see some snow here, so maybe we'll get some of that down our way in Pittsburgh. I don't know, but thanks for joining in, Raphael. And MD Can says, otherwise got some pics on my airstrip on an airstrip, and did a launch as well, thanks to my friend who's up there training to be a pilot. That is super cool. I've always wanted to do an airstrip run. I've never had an opportunity to, but that would be so cool. And I'm so jealous of some of these car channels that have an airstrip or some type of drag strip all of themselves. They can just play around and do 0 to 60s all day and stuff, and quarter miles and all that. That's like the ultimate like baller car review dream. Have your own track ideally, but even just a strip would be great. But yeah, that's awesome. I'm very jealous. I would love to do that in the Bullet someday. Just like top it out, do like a what is it, a mile run kind of thing, and that'd be cool too. And let me see. So Ludicrous says the 4th gen F-body cars, Camaro and Firebird, have risen in value dramatically over the last 5 years. Yeah, especially when you're getting to that vintagey kind of stuff. That is, yeah, I can certainly see that. I think all that stuff, as again things get more and more electrified, people are realizing like, hey, this this might not come back. This might be a phase or a fad, and who knows what the future holds. But it's one of these things. This is the here and now, and people are snapping up stuff while they can, because that kind of stuff could be the top dollar stuff at Barrett Jackson in a couple of decades. So probably not bad to buy and hold any of those classic muscle vehicles or anything with a gas engine that's remotely interesting, to be totally honest. And let me see. So Truck and Car Guy says, which reminds me, I went back and rewatched the Evo 10 review, which I see is almost at 2 million views. Yeah, a lot of those old reviews are huge views. Back in the I don't want to say good old days, but back in the days when there was a lot less competition, it was a whole lot easier to get a lot of views, and that was back when the channel was really in its prime. And it's crazy going back and seeing how many. I mean, those are really evergreen videos though. I mean, they still pull in at least a couple hundred views every month, sometimes more, a couple thousand for some of them, a month. It's really impressive how they have a lot of staying power still, relatively speaking. I mean, they're not, getting tons of views, but it's still cool that people are still enjoying them, over a decade later for some of those. And Austin says Toyota needs to figure out a way to have a danger to manifold an electric monitor now to complement the 14 virtual gears. I know I would go full crazy with that. I mean, I know that's a Mitsubishi thing for that one, but it'd be fun. I'm really happy that they have the orange 45th anniversary Supra for this 2024 model year here. And I wish I could justify one and I could afford one. I would love to pick one up. And it's kind of funny. I don't know if I told this little tangent, but I might as well tell because it's kind of fun and I'm never going to include it in a video. But I was talking to the guy who at the time was one of the product planners and PR people for the Toyota car line and sports car line. And we were at Toyota HQ a couple of years ago for their week-long event where we were reviewing a bunch of stuff and they were revealing a bunch of stuff and all that. And me and him were chatting and stuff. And I was saying, it'd be cool to do different special editions for, cars coming up, because I knew that was something they were, planning to keep the GR86 and the Supra fresh and all that. And I'm like, you guys should totally lean into the Fast and Furious thing with the Supra. And I was like, I love with the bullet connection, you can work out these things with the movie studios. And I'm like, obviously you can only take it so far, because I mean, the Supra in the movie had all the graphics and, a bunch of stuff you could never put on a production car. But I was like, you should totally go for that. And, because I think we had been talking about how I think Fast and Furious was 8 or 9 that had the Supra, the orange Supra. And I was like, people would maybe even just like to even get that, just get an orange Supra. And, I'm sure they had already planned that and it wasn't me, but it was kind of funny that I was like, you guys should lean into the Fast and Furious thing and put a wing and make it orange Supra. And then a couple of years later it shows up, so I either predicted very well and he, played it off very well to not, show their hand, or maybe I actually, influenced something in some small little way. I don't know, but I'm just so happy to finally see an orange Supra here. I haven't seen any of those yet on the roads, but I think someone actually commented in that video whenever I filmed the 45th anniversary and said they just got one. So I think they're starting to hit the dealers. And I'm excited to see one out on the road. But that would, hands down, that with a manual, that would be one of my top picks. Still in the $50,000 to $60,000 price point. I still love the Supra, even all these years later. Anyway, back off the tangents here. Jordan, thanks for joining in. He says, "Hey Matt, have you heard or covered any news or intel on the brand Canu, the electric pickup trucks?" I've covered them. I covered them back when they debuted. Anytime they have anything new product wise, I will cover that. If it's not new product, I don't generally give company updates or anything like that. It seems like they're still kind of struggling. This is something I talked about with just another one of my journalist friends on this media drive this past week, where we're kind of thinking that this window with these electric startups is kind of closing, and it's going to be tough even for Fisker, but even smaller companies like Canu and stuff, unless they can get some kind of really good partnership or get bought out by another company that wants their cars, but is maybe behind the ball, like a Honda or a Toyota that wants to beef up their lineup really quickly, or wants to do stuff and is open to partnerships. It could be a really good way to have some of these legacy OEMs snap up these other little startup companies for cheap that maybe have been working on stuff but don't have the financing or the production or the distribution to get that stuff really out there. I think that could be a thing. I don't know how much sense that actually makes. I'm, don't have an MBA or anything, but I just feel like, that could be the best solution for some of these small little startups, because I really doubt that a lot of them are going to make it on their own. Canoe is really cool. I think there's some really cool ideas. I think they did get some kind of deal. I heard something. I don't know if they like did a prototype for the army or something, but I'm hoping, I'd love to see them do well. It's a really cool kind of out of the ordinary idea, and kind of thinking outside the box. And I'd love to see them do well, but it's really hard to be optimistic about any of these startup companies that aren't as established. I mean, even Lucid is like struggling to like stay solvent, money wise, and they're really doing well, and have an awesome team and are selling well, have decent distribution network so far and stuff. Same thing with VinFast, like they have insane amounts of money, so maybe they will be able to push through. But anyone that doesn't have billions and billions to just burn, to light on fire just to try and get into this market and try and make a dent, it's going to be really, really tough. So we'll see. But Ludacris says, by my last comment, I should say the later LS1 Camaro and Firebirds. Gotcha. I mean, even the non-LS1 ones, I'm sure could even be collectible at some point too. And let me see. So Two says, hey guys, took me 10 minutes to pick up the lock to the radiator. Hopefully Matt doesn't notice the blood on the basement floor. Yikes. Blood is another week of being tied. Man, going dark with the jokes this week too. Thanks for joining in, and always appreciate you joining in and hanging out. And B. Mitchell says, if you get stuck at MSP, let me know, and I'll get you in a couple older cars and trucks. I appreciate that. That's a cool offer. Yeah, that would be really bad if I got stuck there for more than, a few hours. But if I'm ever able to do like a long layover or something, yeah, I appreciate it. And if you have, a bunch of stuff that you could offer, please feel free to send me an email, and I will always just save those emails. I have a running list of everywhere in the country, all the cars that have been offered to me. So if I'm ever marooned in some state for some, reason or whatever, or I happen to be there for an event and I happen to, by some miracle, have some free time, I can look up in my emails and find that name and send them a message and hopefully work something out. It very, very rarely happens, but I like keeping that running list with all those locations, just, in case I ever have that opportunity. So feel free to send me an email if you don't mind. That'd be great. Especially older stuff. I'd love to do more and more older stuff here, next year for sure. And MD Can says, I will just say I'd like to have a few words with the previous owner because he complained so much about problems the car doesn't have. Are you talking about, I think you're talking about the Kona N? I didn't realize you bought yours used, or maybe I'm misunderstanding. But yeah, I think Kona N's are great. And Two says, just wait until they find Matt for all the people in the basement. You go, yeah, that would definitely be a heavy fine, I'm sure. I don't even know. That's probably jail time or so than a fine. Gabriel says, hi Matt, going to look at a lot of cars pretty soon. Which would you take, a Q50 with the 3.7 or an all-wheel drive V6 TLX? And do you despise the 9-speed as much as everyone else does? So I just did a TLX V6 all-wheel drive review. Not sure which years or model or generation you're talking about, but I did just do a TLX review. If you missed that, I've done that, and the transmission in that car, I think, was a 9-speed, if I remember correctly. That was fine. It wasn't, I mean, it's not, a ZF8 speed. It's not PDK or anything, obviously, but it wasn't horrible. I will say, though, I think the 3.7 and the Infinity, I mean, the transmission in that isn't like amazing either, but it is a little quicker because I believe it's, related to the Nissan, Z transmission and stuff from the autos and that. And of course that motor's from the Z. It sounds better. The Q50 is also rear-wheel drive base for the platform. In my opinion, it looks better. That's subjective, but the Q50 drives better than the TLX for sure. It's closer to a true sports sedan than the TLX is. I'd say TLX might marginally be a little more comfortable, but I'm really splitting hairs here. I'd have to drive them back to back to honestly give a good opinion. So if I was in your shoes, I would go with the Q50. That's a pretty simple decision in my opinion. TLX is fine. They're great. Nothing against them, but compared to the Q50, I think it's the more fun vehicle, and should be pretty comparable as far as reliability and stuff like that too. So yeah, I think I'd go to Q50 for sure. Hopefully that helps you a little bit. And Sean says, hey Matt, have you thought about listing the Bullet on Turo? Oh, that sounds like my worst nightmare. Definitely not. Yeah, they would have to pay me a lot of money to put the Bullet on Turo, especially with a manual. If it was an auto, it'd be a little bit better. But I mean, yeah, I mean, I'm even iffy about letting anyone drive the Bullet, which is really hypocritical since so many very friendly, nice people let me drive their cars all the time. But I'm really protective of the Bullet, and yeah, I'd probably turn down insanely large amounts of money if Turo wanted me to put my car on there, or if someone wanted to rent it on Turo. Yeah, I would probably say no at most sane prices. With manuals, you can just screw things up so badly so quickly. And you don't know what you're getting with a Turo renter, whether it's someone who's never driven a manual before and they're taking your car out to learn stick that weekend or whatever. I mean, yeah, it's all kinds of, that's like the stuff of my nightmares. Definitely, definitely no Turo ever on Bullet. Definitely not. Jordan says, with Toyota being a pioneer in reliability, that would be the problem with producing an affordable vehicle, EV or ICE, for true blue collar Americans. We kind of get stuck with unreliable buy here, pay here. So yeah, what would be the problem with them producing an affordable vehicle? I mean, I think they do, produce some pretty affordable stuff. I mean, Corolla still, comparably speaking, is a little cheaper than a Civic. It's, a solid vehicle. It's a nice vehicle inside. I mean, it's got a padded dash on, base Corolla and stuff. I mean, there's some nice stuff to it. If I'm, being completely honest, I think the Corolla is a great little car, and I think it's a good, relatively affordable vehicle. Now, as far as the EV stuff goes, I mean, that's just so hard because it's so expensive with battery packs. They haven't reached cost parity with gas engines. So that's the bigger challenge there. And I think that's why, like Elon's talking about how Tesla's potentially coming up with new manufacturing strategies to cut costs even further. But GigaPress does a really good job of cutting a lot of those costs and reducing a lot of the extra parts. And Toyota was blown away by that when they were, checking out a GigaPress version of the Model Y. And I think they're, reverse engineering that with the Lexus. I talked about that in a weekly update, or just this past week's weekly update as well. And so, I think that Toyota is probably working on trying to, cut out as many parts as we can to get the prices down on a lot of these things. And I think it also, as far as affordability goes, you typically are going to smaller vehicles, and you can only go so small in America. People only tolerate, so much before they just quit buying. And that's why we're seeing all of these subcompact cars go away. They sold the Yaris here for years. It just didn't sell enough. It got to the point where the Yaris was just a rebadged Mazda 2, for the last few years here. I actually reviewed it. I thought it was a great little car. I actually really enjoyed it for what it was. So they tried. I think they really tried. And it's just there weren't enough people that bought them. And I think it was also just the pricing was too close to the compacts. You could, for a couple grand more, get a Corolla, and a couple grand is, a big chunk of change for someone in the $20,000 shopping range. But, since so many people these days buy through car payments and they're thinking about what the payment is, not what the price is, if the payment is $20 a month difference or something for a Yaris versus a Corolla, they're just going to go up to the Corolla. And I mean, they sell a ton of Corolla still. So I think they've honed in on what their strengths are, what the buyers want. I still think though, it'd be great to, like I've said in the past, I've joked around on these updates before, or these live streams before, how I'd love to, put out a car with roll up windows and no power door locks and an AM FM radio and call it a day, and make sure it's safe and have the airbags and have all that stuff, but otherwise make it be a completely stripped down thing, sell it for stupid cheap money and see how it goes. But I mean, you look at like the Mitsubishi Mirage, like that's a little nicer than that, but that's basically an 80s crap box that they have barely modernized, and they have horrible crash test ratings and all that. So it gets to be tricky with safety. It gets to be tricky with just like profit margins and stuff like that, of making things worthwhile. And that's why like the Mirage, they can justify keeping it around because they paid off the engineering probably back in the 80s for that thing. And so, it's like there's very little there investment wise to, lose on. So it's just, that's what makes it tough to make really cheap stuff. And I think, the solution right now, as far as the EV is getting to that part of it, is just, with the incentives and, getting those credits and stuff to hopefully bring those prices down to a somewhat decent level. I mean, Chevy Bolt, you can get one of those in the 20s now, which, again, isn't affordable for everyone, but especially with inflation and stuff, relatively priced compared to everything else in the market these days. That's a pretty good price, especially for an EV, and one that has a touchscreen, has a good amount of practicality and all that. So that's why I love the Bolt. I reviewed the Bolt EV. Great little car if you're looking for a cheap electric car. I think it's a really solid choice. And let me see. Double Strike says, now you guys have me wondering what it would take to get airstrip access at a local airport. I'm in uncontrolled airspace. We have one outside of Akron, Ohio. Yeah, that would be. Let me know if you can arrange something. I would happily drive to Akron to ring the bullet out. That'd be a blast. Ludacris says Massachusetts roads are absolutely terrible. Potholes are everywhere, and they get covered with salt a lot of the time this year. Cars rust and get punctures very easily around here. Yeah, I mean, I think that's the whole Northeast in general. I mean, yeah, they even were putting salt out a couple weeks ago just because we had a light dusting, and thankfully it got washed away by the rain pretty quick. But yeah, lots of salt. The roads are terrible around here too. Same thing with people having these super deep potholes. They get punctures in and stuff. It's not great. So I think it's just a Northeast problem, unfortunately. But I'm sure Massachusetts gets hammered way more than we do here in Pittsburgh. So you guys definitely have it worse than we do. But even down here we get a little bit of that too. Brian says bought an Integra Type S. Congrats on the purchase, Brian. He says, do you know why a car designed for street use doesn't offer an all-season tire option? Are the Pilot Sports that great of a tire over Michelin all seasons? So first part of your question there, it's I think the thinking there, as far as only having the summers is, they probably just want to hit the benchmarks that they are wanting to hit as far as a performance standpoint. And it's also a 50 grand car. When you're getting into that kind of money, dropping another grand on a different set of tires if you want to swap, I think that, they assume that that's not going to really be a hardship for someone that's, again, in that price bracket. I mean, obviously everyone's in different situations, but I think that's a little bit of the justification. But some others, it's just there's no justification. What's really bad, I mean, at least that's front wheel drive and a little more aggressive. But the WRX, the new WRX, doesn't come with all seasons. They all come with dumb summer tires on them. And hello, this is a car sold for snowy climates. That's why people buy WRXs, for the all-wheel drive. What are you going to use the all-wheel drive for with summer tires? Like, it's so dumb. Like, I could go on all day about Subaru, but that makes zero sense. They must have gotten a crazy good deal from Dunlop to just like throw those tires in the WRX. There's no good justification because every single person, my buddy bought a WRX, first thing to do, throw on all season tires or, buy snow tires and different wheels and all that. It's so annoying because like you can't buy a WRX in a snowy state and just drive it. You have to be like, okay, day one, let's swap tires, and so it's kind of dumb. So, Acura is not alone in that. Doesn't make it excusable, but there's others that do it on even more dumb applications. Like I said, the WRX and others. Subaru's not the only one either. As far as Pilot Sports over Michelin all seasons, there's certainly an edge, especially again when you're talking about the very high performance limits of the Type S Integra. It's a worthwhile improvement. I mean, I've heard really good things about the Michelin all seasons. For the Pilot Sport all season. I don't have extensive experience with them, but I've had them on a few press cars. And from what I've heard, like even Jason Camisa, he loves the Michelin Pilot all season. Like he was praising it up and down in his Instagram post. He swapped all his cars over to it a few years back and like absolutely loved them. They seem like they're really, really good tires. So, I think it's, again, they want to deliver. Again, you're paying 50 grand for an Acura Integra. Like they want to make sure that you're getting the absolute max performance. And if your needs dictate having different tires, they would rather you experience the max performance of this thing with the best tires possible, optimize it for that, and then, offer the all seasons. I think it would be nice to offer an all season option. Like in the Civic Si, they have a summer tire option. It comes standard with the all seasons. Then the summers are like $250 or something, which is totally, reasonable. I think in the Integra would be nice to, allow people to, cut that out if they don't want to have the summers, have an all season option. I think that'd be a really nice thing. But maybe it would overcomplicate the production line or something. I don't know, but it seems like it'd be a pretty easy thing to do since they already do it in the Civic. So, but anyway, congrats on the Type S though. That's awesome. I hope you enjoyed it. I just saw one out in the wild about a week or so ago, and they look so good. I still just the other day I was like fawning over the Type S again. Just think this, I don't know why it triggered into my brain, but I was just like, man, like what an awesome car. One of my favorites this year for sure. And I will be doing a top 10 video at the end of this month here of my personal favorites, not the best cars I've driven in 2023 here, but my 10 favorites. And spoiler alert, the Type S is going to be one of them. It's definitely just such a good car. So kudos to you on the awesome purchase. I hope it treats you very well and you enjoy it a lot. And MDCan says, I don't have much experience with the all seasons, but the PS4s are so grippy. I held 1.11G cornering in my Kona ends and felt like I had more left in it. And Austin's curious about the dealership experience. I'm curious as well if they tried to play hardball with you or not. But Dave says, any more on a new MR2? Doug just did a video on the second gen and said it was too bad. It was gone for good. Doug can't possibly be wrong about anything. And Austin says, speaking of Doug, Matt, did you have a beer with him when you were in San Diego? Very funny, Austin. So Dave, so to answer that question, first off, I don't think that he was making a prediction about the future by saying, it's gone for good. Unless I didn't see the video. So maybe he was shooting down rumors of a new one while he was talking about the second gen. He could have just been like, playing it up for the video. That's something he does. But I think, it seems like Toyota, I can't remember. There's been so many executive interviews in the past few months that are all over the place. Obviously, it sounds like the new electric thing that we saw in Tokyo is not an MR2. They've said that is different, but there's still been rumors that an MR2 that's powered by gas is still coming. Toyota is awesome enough that if a company's going to do it, I could see Toyota, justifying something like that. And they were, the rumors, which again, it comes from like Best Car and those magazines in Japan, which definitely aren't afraid to make bold predictions that don't end up turning out to be true most of the time. But they are claiming it's going to be like really affordable. It'll be slow, much like, the other MR2s typically have been, but it'd be slow, it'd be, cheap. Like they're talking like mid to low 20s, which maybe is really wishful thinking. I think if it's under 30, it'd be a huge win, especially if it is actually mid-engined. But, so I still have cautious optimism that we will see a new MR2. I wouldn't take anything Doug says as the cold hard facts for whatever he's commenting on. I think he's just giving his opinion. But I could be wrong. Like I said, I've not seen the video or have any extra insight there. Brian says he's just a little salty. He had to spend $1,200 on new tires after buying a car. That's certainly true. I think it's not great. Like I said, with the WRXs, it's the same crappy situation. And so hopefully they can offer some kind of option in the future. Trent Cargill says, what would you consider the best handling four-door sedan? If you're talking in all of history, that's tough. I would need like 20 minutes to sit down and think about like a good answer to that one. I'm thinking if there's anything that's just popping into my head immediately, but there's nothing that's immediately springing to mind as far as best handling ever. Yeah, there's been a bunch of stuff that's really been super impressive. And the Integras and stuff like that are certainly high on that list. I love the GR Corolla handling, but I don't think any of those are like the best I've ever experienced, but I'd have to sit down and really think about it. Like what was the absolute best handling four-door thing I've ever driven? Man, yeah, that is a real hard one. If something pops into my head, I'll let you know, but I don't want to get too far behind in comments trying to figure that one out. But there's one that popped in my head of me that's like really fun and dynamic was the Chevy SS sedan. That really blew me away. Again, I still don't think I would give it the title of the best handling four-door ever. That's a lot of weight to say for something like that. But yeah, I'll think about that one a little bit more here and see if I can get back to you. But there's been a lot of really good stuff. Obviously, all the M3s and all, just so many things. I'd say RS3 is also the newest one, is like really high on that list as far as not only just like impressive handling, but like fun handling. It's the only car that has skinnier rear tires than front tires that I've seen in decades. And it's just hilarious the way they set that car up and then the sound of it and then the torque vectoring. I'd say RS3 is close to the top for me at least. But yeah, if there's anything else, I'll let you know. Thanks for the question. And Brian says he had to spend a $2,500 ADM, so not crazy happy, but got the color combo I wanted. And yeah, Austin saying it could be a lot worse. But yeah, and it's tough. I think the bottom line is it really comes down to what it's worth to that person. It sucks that ADMs are a thing, and I still am a huge proponent of trying to do road trips to get away from that if it's at all possible. I know that's not realistic for everybody, but yeah, it sucks that that's still a reality. I was really hoping more of those would drop off here with things slowing down. Because even like my brother-in-law who works at a Toyota dealer, like they were one of the ones that did markups, and I didn't recommend them to anybody the whole time they did markups because I'm like, dude, I'm not gonna like plug you or recommend you to anybody with markups. And now they've gotten rid of the markups. And if you followed me on Instagram, you'll know a couple weeks ago I posted up on my story. They actually got in a GR Corolla for sticker, and they were offering it a sticker. And so I'm like, okay, well now I will plug you because like this is awesome. Like it's great to see a sticker, a GR Corolla out there. And so I posted it up. No one bought it off of him from that. I think they just sold it, through the usual means. But there are some MSRP deals out there if you're willing to, hunt them down. I think it's truly possible. It usually comes down to doing a road trip. You're settling on color combo, like you said. I'm guessing maybe there just wasn't any in that color combo, and so there's sometimes some flexibility there to get them at MSRP, but it sucks that it's still the case. But hope you'll be happy with it nonetheless. And congrats again on the buy there. And Austin's talking about Two's basement there again. Anyway, getting caught up here on other questions. Sorry, Mark, I missed your super chat. I don't know why YouTube didn't notify me of that. I know I'm way behind here on comments. But Mark, thank you so much for the super chat. It says Lexus IS 500 versus G20 BMW 330i, which is faster? I'd have to look up the specs, but I'd be pretty confident the IS 500 is going to be the faster one. Way more power. I could be wrong, but yeah, pretty certain that would be the Lexus. Unless there's something I'm missing about the BMW that would give it an edge. But yeah, I'm pretty sure IS 500 should be faster. They're pretty punchy cars. They are so much fun. Love the IS 500. And thanks so much for the super chat there, Mark. And let me get back to the other questions here. Sorry, I'm so behind, guys. I'll try and go through these quicker so I'm actually conversing a little closer to real time here with all of you. Two says someone mentioned Doug. Matt's back to the basement. Austin says I'd never list my car on Turo unless I hated it. Absolutely. I considered briefly just buying a car strictly for Turo and like buying a Corolla and just putting it out there, and if it gets driven to hell and back and just beat up, like whatever, but you'd have to really be in like a resort touristy kind of place, I think, for Turo renting to make sense. I looked into it a decent bit, and there's not enough volume in Pittsburgh, as far as rentals to make it worthwhile. But if you live in a place that gets a lot of tourists, a little side business with Turos seems pretty easy. If you can, come up with a car, as long as you have the time to, vacuum it out and, gas it up and stuff, it should be pretty much paying for itself, if you can get the volume. It's a pretty genius thing for those that live in a place where that works. Cam Jam says, have you ever driven an I-Pace before on the used market? They seem pretty tempting. Never driven an I-Pace. I will just warn you that they have been pretty sketchy reliability-wise. Jags have never been great. And the issue with most Jags is the electrical system. What is an I-Pace? A giant electrical system. So I would approach that one with caution and definitely get an extended warranty on one if you are considering one. But there's a reason why they're cheap. Like most used European stuff, they drop like rocks because they have expensive maintenance schedules. The parts are expensive. The labor's expensive. If you go to an independent shop or you're doing the work yourself, you still got to pay for the parts. It's just, some people it's fine. Some people have great luck. There's lots of people I've talked to in the past that swear up and down like, oh, I got a BMW with 300,000 miles. All I do is oil changes and it's fine. So it's you kind of luck of the draw. Some people do get lucky, but it is definitely a gamble. But I-Pace, I haven't driven it. I'd like to keep an open mind about it. and I commend them for being one of the early ones out there with, an electric vehicle in that segment. But I would approach that with caution. Just say that, but it might work out, especially if you get one. Maybe if the Carfax looks amazingly clean and looks like it has had zero issues, then maybe you got a good one, and it might be worth taking a chance on, again, with an extended warranty. And says, hey Matt, crazy story. My dad has a 2022 Suburban. He was driving down the road at 20 miles per hour, and the engine shut off all on its own. Few alerts on the dash, but seemingly random and bizarre. Wow. Well, that sounds like definitely something that should be reported to NHTSA if he hasn't already, for a huge safety issue. I'm assuming he was able to kick it right back on once he pulled over. Hopefully, steering didn't lock up or anything like that. That is definitely a big deal. Chevy would be desperately running to their lawyers the second they heard that. So yeah, definitely, I'm sure that your dad's taking the appropriate steps, but definitely make sure that gets checked out so it doesn't happen again. For one, make it very well known that has happened with all, again, the authorities, to make sure that is something that's documented and looked into. And yeah, hopefully it doesn't happen again. That is crazy. And I'm not sure, I couldn't even think of why that would happen unless there's some weird short or something in the electrical system. That's really strange, but glad he was okay. I think that's good that didn't turn out bad, because that could go obviously real bad real quick. And Truck and Car Guy, thanks so much for gifting the 5 memberships there. I really appreciate it. Glad to see everyone was able to snatch those up there. But thanks so much for your generosity, Truck and Car Guy. I'm sure everyone else really appreciates it as well. Let me get back to the other questions here. Try and get caught up. All right. So, and Dylan says he just got a circuit. He loves it. That's awesome. Thank you for buying a GR Corolla. I always have to thank people for buying enthusiast vehicles, because it's so easy to just, go with something that's more ordinary, that's easier to find, that's cheaper, whatever the case might be. And, so I always have to give a huge, huge thumbs up to everyone that, goes out and buys these awesome cars that deserve to be bought and enjoyed and hunted down and, found at decent prices and stuff, because it's, that's the ultimate way to keep that stuff coming. If you're complaining or worried about, all the performance stuff going away, you got to buy the current stuff. If you're upset about manuals dying off, buy a manual. Like, that's the way you send the message to them. And don't buy them used, because that doesn't help the manufacturer. That doesn't send a message, really. I mean, I guess it sends some message if all of a sudden CarMax is selling tons of manuals for good money or something. But, the bottom line is, to keep the new manual stuff around, you got to buy it. And that's why Porsche is now flooding the market with all these new 911s and stuff with manuals, because they said our customers clearly wanted this. They sought it out. They, were paying the premium for the manual. They were, they made it very clear, we want manual Porsches. So then Porsche said, okay, that's fine. Like, they I commend them for breaking out of their binary thinking of like, well, automatic is faster and Porsche needs to be faster, so therefore all Porsche is all automatic. I'm glad that they were able to break away from that and be like, you know what? People want to have a slow 911 with a manual. Let's turn them out. And people love them, and everyone loves Porsche. I love Porsche as a result. And I mean, obviously I love them for other reasons too, but it's just great to see when the companies get that message and they do reward that. Obviously it's easier with 911s and stuff like that versus a Toyota or someone like that, but that's the way you support it, is to buy it. So thank you for supporting the cause, Dylan. It's really great to see that. And Paul says, it's my birthday, Matt. Thank you for your honest reviews and sharing the behind the scenes of having a YouTube channel. It isn't as easy as I thought. Thanks for joining in, Paul, and happy birthday. I hope it's a great one. And thanks for joining in and hanging out with us here on your birthday. I'm sure you had other better things to do. So thanks so much for stopping by here, and hope it's been a great birthday. Hope it continues to be a great birthday here the rest of the evening as well. And always happy to share the videos. Thank you for watching them. And I'm always happy to give a behind the scenes look. I love, showing the honest, pros and cons of doing this stuff. And for me personally, the pros and cons. And I think it's important, because a lot of people don't realize the work that goes into this stuff, and the work that it is to be a YouTuber. It looks very glamorous, like anything else with social media. You're always seeing the highlight reel, and you're seeing all the cool places I'm going, all the cool stuff I'm doing. You don't hear about all the hair pulling that I'm doing. Just all the late nights, getting in at 2 a.m. and staying up till 2 a.m. editing videos and getting stuff out by the embargo date. And like this weekly update this week, I got back from dinner and I was in San Diego there. I was tired. I had just been flying all day. I'd been up since 3 a.m. East Coast time. So basically midnight West Coast time. I had to stay up until like basically 11:30 to get that weekly update done so that it would be ready Friday, because Friday I was going to be driving the Blazer all morning, and I was going to be, going straight to the airport after that. Didn't have time to edit or upload, and I'm not going to rely on, crappier public Wi-Fi to try and upload that. So, that was like, all right, well, let's brew a coffee here in the hotel room and let's get to work and crank out this weekly update here so that it's ready for you guys Friday. But that meant I was literally up for 24 hours. All I wanted to do was go to bed as soon as I got back from dinner at like 9 o'clock. It's like, nope, I'm going to do this. I know everyone like loves these videos. They rely on it. And this is my job. So I'm not, it's not like I'm doing it as well for my own well-being and my own livelihood. But, it's one of those things, like, I know that like people are waiting for those on Friday afternoon and Friday evening, and I don't want to let them down. So it's like, I got to push through and get the stuff done. But that's the stuff you don't see. You see, me hanging out by the beach and stuff. You're not seeing me being up until all hours of the night, with bloodshot eyes, staring at a computer screen. You don't see that stuff. So it's important to show both sides, I think. Just so that people don't try and get into this job and think it's going to be a cakewalk and quit their job and then be like, oh crap, this is like really hard, So it's, I'm not going to complain though. It's an amazing job I'm very grateful for, but definitely, good to show that. Anyway, sorry for the long tangent. I promise I get caught up on questions here, but anyway, happy birthday once again, Paul. Austin's talking about, lawsuit waiting to happen there with the Suburban. And Jordan says, does Tesla have a patent on the GigaPress? How is Toyota able to adopt the idea? I think they have a patent on their GigaPress, but like most knockoff stuff, I don't know how much Toyota's knocking it off. That's probably a mischaracterization, but you can take the basic idea and the concept of, let's do these giant stampings and castings and do a similar thing, make a few tweaks, and then call it your own and do the same kind of thing or close to the same kind of thing, in just a slightly different way. So I believe that's how they're doing it, but I don't know. Ludacris says car payment. What do you mean, Matt? A lot of people, that's what they do. They just always do that. Austin says always negotiate on price, never payment. Such a common pitfall for buyers. Yeah, totally. I mean, but that's a lot of people, they can't wrap their head around even $20,000. No one deals with that kind of money typically, especially if you're in that price bracket. So, it's just, what can I do? What am I making every month? What can I afford? And that's just, it's a very common thing, and dealers prey on that like crazy. They really, exploit that as much as they can. Let me see. So Jordan Cargas says, I think the Corolla just got a slight refresh since I see 2022s, 2023s, and we're starting to see 2024s at work. 24s, or it was 23, I think, is when they upgraded the headlights. Because that's when they rolled them out with the GR Corolla, where they have the different shape for the DRL there in the front. And then they get the new infotainment software, I think, for 23. And that's it. I don't think there's any changes for 2024. And GR Corolla, gets the new blue color I covered. I don't think there's anything else new for Corolla for 24. And I got a bunch more press cars scheduled. So another little brief spoiler alert, not like it's anyone's on their edge of their seat waiting for a Corolla review, but I'm actually going to finally get my hands on a Corolla hybrid all-wheel drive. I haven't been able to get one of those. I've had them out for like a year or so. I kept asking Toyota for it, but they just didn't have any in the fleet. They finally have one in the fleet. I'll be able to drive it in the middle of winter, which is perfect for the reason why you're buying an all-wheel drive Corolla is for the snow capability. And so I'm actually really excited to try that out. I think it's going to be you'll see, I'll post my upload schedule here. I already have basically January and February now mapped out with a ton of press cars scheduled. I'm really focusing on more affordable stuff. And I think, I will certainly still review any expensive stuff that I think is worth reviewing, but I'm really, really going to try pretty hard to keep a cap as close to under 50 grand as I can in 2024. because I mean, and the views show like no one cares about stuff that's expensive. I mean, they always bomb for the most part on this channel. I really want to just get back to more affordable stuff, and that's why I'm doing more used stuff. I'm going to do more used stuff next year as well. I'm going to keep going with that stuff, and really just focus because I'm burned out on the expensive stuff too, and everyone else is. No one wants to buy all these expensive cars. I really want to just focus on cheap stuff, help the people, not review cars for 1% of the 1%. It's fun, and I'm not going to turn down an exotic car review if it's offered to me, but it's not going to be my focus next year for sure. And let me see. So Raphael says, I don't think EVs have to be under 20, just in the 30s will be fine. It's having them all over 50 that's the problem. Yeah, but I think there are a decent amount that are either already out or coming. And we have Kona EV, which will probably be around the 35-ish, 40 grand kind of price point. We got all these new Kias coming on the slower architecture, which will hopefully mean that they're going to be some $30,000 EVs. We already have, I guess, Bolt's going away now. But you have the Equinox EV coming online for 35. And there's other stuff there. Blazer's definitely more pricey, unfortunately. But I feel like there's a few. Obviously, there's not a ton of choices. But I think that the $30-ish thousand one, I think that is something that's going to be a little more doable. It's really trying to crack under 30. It's going to be the hardest thing for car companies to do. But I think we're really going to start to see more of the mid 30 stuff here coming pretty quickly, hopefully. And with a lot of the incentives, a lot of them are getting to that point as well. Like I was floored just the other day. I was on Lexus's website just to do a little bit of research because I currently have a Lexus. I have a couple Lexuses. I'm prepping for my reviews I'll be doing here coming up. But anyway, I was on the Lexus website and they're offering 15 grand off the RZ right now. And I think that is probably the largest incentive I've ever seen advertised on a car. Just like right up front, like no special deals or just like 15 grand off. Like just take an RZ, please. Like it's hilarious. But I mean, so that puts, I think those are about 60 grand. It puts one of those at 45. There's Ioniq 5s that are, 45, and a lot of them have 10 grand on the hood, so you get one of those for 35. There's a lot of serious discounts. I mean, even like our Mach-E, I think is only worth like 38 now or something like that. I mean, so if you want a cheap EV right now, get a used one. The used ones are just plummeting in value. And, that is the way to go. I think if you want an EV, now is the best time to buy because they are all really cheap, hugely incentivized, and that won't last forever. They will, they're not going to just be slow sellers forever. I think that there is staying power there. They're good products. It's just that we're right now in this little bit of a lull because of interest rates and stuff. Once interest rates ease up, and we see the infrastructure improvements coming online, like I just talked about in the weekly update with, Mercedes putting out thousands of new chargers. We have GM partnering with EVgo and the Pilot and Flying J. They're going to have all these huge service centers. They already put up a few dozen before the end of this year, and they're doing a couple hundred more next year. I mean, we're talking major expansion. So once you start to be like, oh, look, there's another charger, and you're starting to see chargers everywhere, that'll probably make some people be a little more open-minded with EVs again, be like, hey, now there's chargers on every corner. Like, I guess maybe this isn't a huge deal to worry about range anxiety anymore. And then, that will hopefully, get people off the sidelines a little bit more. I think that opening up of the Tesla supercharging network, all these things are going to, I think, give us a new headwind for EVs. So I think that, this is kind of like a prime time to buy an EV because I believe it's going to rebound. I could be completely wrong. They could, fall out of favor forever and, they'll all be $5 grand crap boxes in 10 years or something. I have no clue, but, I have a feeling that, there's going to be some staying power. And, so I think there's some great deals out there right now for EVs that are all well in the 30,000s after incentives. Anyway, I keep getting on these long tangents. I apologize. Trent Car Guy says, I joke about buying a Mirage and doing a motor swap to it. That'd be so fun. Two says, by the way, I don't know if it's a rumor or not, but there's a guy down in the basement that calls himself Super X fan. Cal says he's been down here for years. That sometimes brings him out. Is it true? Yep. That Super X fan thing's been gone since 2017. It's funny though. I know you're joking, obviously, but there's some people that every once in a while, I can't tell if they're joking or they're serious because they'll be like someone I've never seen comment on a video before that like are commenting on an old thing. And they're like, is this the Super X fan guy? Or this guy looks so much like Super X fan because, they're watching a video that says Matt Maran Motoring. and they're like, this guy, I swear, there's a Subaru guy that looked just like, and I think some of those are jokes, but there's some that like it's people that I've never seen before that are commenting this stuff, and I'm like, are they actually confused, or like what's going on? It's kind of funny, but yeah. That's another thing. If you're starting a YouTube channel, make sure that you have future-proofed it before it gets big, because you don't want to have to do a name change like I did. I think it certainly was a big hurdle and a big speed bump. And some people, I think, still argue that like the channel has never been the same since I switched the name, even though it's opened up so many more opportunities. But yeah, anyway, yeah, that's make sure you have a good name if you're doing a YouTube channel, and a name that you are literally going to take to the grave before you actually start your channel, in earnest. But Two says they say he looks a lot like Matt, but he just keeps doing these crazy karate chops. Clarkson's voice. They say he only drinks high octane fuel, and that he's a product of Rich Channel Legends. Oh man, you're getting the zingers out tonight too. I appreciate it. And all we know is he's called Super X Fan. Good stuff. Austin says Matt should do a Doug parody car review. That would be epic. I I don't want to go down the Doug rabbit hole again this week, but I came close to posting a video maybe 6 months ago or so, because there was a multitude of things that kind of all came to a little bit of a head, and I was real close to just trying to correct some of the incorrect things that were out there. And I just decided not to, because I really just I don't want to start beef. And it's not professional, and it's not something I need to do. I try and keep this channel very professional, very, I think that's one of the things with the Super X Fan thing is I was a lot more personal back then, and that's maybe hurt me. I think next year I'll talk about this in my year-end video, so I won't get into detail, but I think I'm going to try and do a little more personal stuff next year as well, because I think that kind of, you guys that watch these live streams, you really love that connection, that extra, personal look into things. But I think a lot of people who don't watch these miss out on that, and they kind of would probably appreciate a little more of the personal side. And I see a heart there. I appreciate the little support, I'm assuming, for that idea. But so I think that, next year I'm going to try and, still be a professional car reviewer, but I think I tried to go so professional, that I think I kind of lost some of the connection with the personal side of things. And so I think I want to just try and, do more vlogs whenever it's something that's mildly interesting. My life is not very interesting outside of the car reviews, but, trying to just give some insight into my life a little bit more, because I feel like there is, I think that would be a nice thing for some people to see. I don't like making the channel about myself necessarily, even though I know I named it after me, but as far as I don't want to be some kind of influencer that's always vlogging his every thought, but I think I need to do a little more personal stuff next year, so I think I'm going to try and do a little more of that, and so maybe that will mean me veering off with rant videos or something like that. I've briefly considered doing Matt Marant things, and just go in the bullet and go on a rant, and then just post it up and just kind of rock the boat a little bit every once in a while. So I may do a little bit of that next year. Austin says Matt should also launch his own car auction website with cars with hand cranked windows only. Great idea, Austin. That would be cool. Yeah, it seems like everyone was trying to do a car auction site there for a little bit. I think hopefully that has passed. Yeah, I got some interesting ideas for next year, and I'm going to try and run a few of those past everyone in my year-end video and see what the feedback's like and go from there. Nathaniel says, best handling sedan, Alfa Romeo. Okay, thank you for that, Nathaniel. Yeah, that's a great point. Giulia is really up there. It is definitely, yeah. Giulia, I would say Giulia is probably the best handling non-performance branded sedan I've ever driven. I think that's actually an accurate statement. Thank you for reminding me about the Alpha, Nathaniel. Yeah, that is. I think I could stand behind that statement. The Giulia is the best handling non-performance brand thing. I think that is probably the safe thing. But anyway, YouTube just notified me. I thank you so much, Evolving, for this very generous super chat. I think you take the record of the highest super chat I've ever received. Holy crap. Thank you so much. He says, we all want to hear about Doug. Thanks for all the hard work. I promise to get back to your email soon. Life has been hectic recently. Thanks so much. I'm looking forward to your response to the email. And sorry, I'm blown away by that super chat. That just means a lot. So if you want to follow up evolving, if there's any, I see, I really don't want to poke the bear here, and the giant Doug fan base. So and actually, I'm curious because maybe it's just that everyone hang out here in the live streams, but in YouTube's analytics, they show me other channels and other videos that you guys all watch. Obviously, it's a giant conglomeration of the hundreds of thousands of views I get every month, and all those viewers, what are they watching? But the top stuff, a lot of you watch Doug. So I think there are a lot of Doug fans here. That's also one of the reasons why I don't want to, because I mean, people like Doug for the reasons they like Doug, and he certainly has lots of good reasons to like him. I mean, he's pretty funny. He gets amazing cars, and there's some redeeming qualities there. But I think, yeah, I'm not convinced that everyone does want to hear a Doug rant, because I think there's a lot of people that do really enjoy his stuff. And again, I really don't want to start beef. And I appreciate, the defense there, but it's so funny, evolving. There's if you I don't know how many of you ever go on our cars on Reddit, and I don't know, I haven't been on there in months, so maybe this is an old take on that, subreddit. Maybe it's changed, but back then, I mean, they loved Doug, and it was like Doug could do no wrong. Doug was the best, and that was it. And anytime, every once in a while, if my name ever popped up, because I have a thing on Google where anytime I come up in conversation online, like if it triggers Matt Maran Motoring, like if that comes up on the crawlers that are on the internet or whatever, like if it pops up, I'll get an email being like, hey, like people are talking about this video you posted from 5 years ago or something. I'm like, oh, cool. And it's a cool way to kind of stay in the loop about like what's going on outside of the comments section on my own personal pages. But anytime that I come up on our cars, people immediately go to the fundraising thing I did for the EcoBoost way back when, for those of you that remember that, and people like still hate my guts for that basically, and like think that I'm like a terrible person or something. And that's a whole nother thing. But so I feel like if all those people already hate me, and then like I went off on Doug or something, like it would just be a downhill thing. So I don't know. I mean, I want to value your super chat there. So I mean, I'm happy to try to say a little bit that I can, that without being too controversial, I guess. But yeah, it's one of those things like, I love being totally open and honest with you guys, and I would love to just be completely unfiltered. But I also, the car review community is a very tight knit community, and it's one of those things that I don't really want to stir any drama, because the really nice thing about the YouTube car community is there really is very little drama, and the little drama that is out there is some of it is created by stuff that Doug and a few other people do, and it's fine. I mean, Doug's also, one of the top dogs, so he's going to naturally, get hate, and, I'm sure people would just discount it at that because, oh, he's a top dog, everyone's just jealous of him and write it off as that. But, we will see. I mean, I'm not going to ever rule out doing something. I actually, the last time a few months back, whenever I was really on the fence about doing a video, I texted a few of my close other car reviewer friends and like ran it past them, and they kind of advised against it as well. So it just, I think it's in my best interest to not rock the boat. But Austin says controversy equals engagement and algorithm. Yeah, I don't know if I want to be that guy. I don't want to be the guy to like, get a bunch of attention, get a bunch of stuff just because I'm the one that's, poking the bear or whatever. It's a real slippery slope, because then you get labeled as that guy, and then, it's not a great thing. So I kind of want to still keep things as neutral, I guess, as I can. And two, thanks for being a member for 18 months. He says, Doug fans, traders, tie them to the radiator, make them watch Kyle play Raid Shadow Legends. But like I said, everyone likes different things. I know I'm not the best car channel out there. I know some of you might think that, and I'm very humbled you do, but there's a bunch of stuff. Like I said, thankfully, most of the people in the car reviewing world, I love them to death. There's most of them, a huge majority are awesome, awesome people that I would go to bat for at the drop of a hat, like that are all awesome. And I'm very, very fortunate to call many of them, pretty close friends. And I mean, honestly, since I have very little social life, like going to the car review, media drives and stuff, like those are like, it's like, sweet, I get to see all my friends. I get to see, Sophion, I get to see Kirk, and I get to see, all, Drew from Carfections, and just all those guys. It's just great to and Mason as well, obviously from Car Factions, both of them. But I mean, just all these people that it's like, it's so nice to like, yay, I'm like, it's like a friend hangout, but it's like the coolest friend hangout ever if you're into cars, because it's like all these awesome people. We have all these awesome conversations about all the fun things we've been doing, and our opinions on cars, and behind the scenes opinions on all kinds of stuff and all that. And it's really fun. So I'm so fortunate that this whole community is so great. So that's why I don't want to harp on the negative, because there is so much good, and I don't want to give any more airtime to the negativity or stuff, because I think I just think I have a lot to be grateful for. And I'm just happy to have my own little tiny sliver of the pie here of the car reviewing world, and I'm just very grateful for that. I will get back to the other member questions. I don't want to miss them, but I'm just going to briefly go through the last few here since that super chat came through, just so I'm kind of giving any other answers about the Doug stuff while I'm on it, and then I will move off here. So let me see. We're just scanning this briefly. Let me take a drink while I scan. Doug says, I do have a lot of fans. Doug, you're awesome for joining here, Doug Joseph. I appreciate the comment there. Let me see. So, yeah, see, there's people that say they like Doug's channel. So I don't want to, talk badly about a channel you guys love. And again, like I said, he's got lots of redeeming qualities from his channel standpoint. And yeah, so I don't need to stir the pot anymore there. But all right. So let's see any other comments here, and then I'll go right back to the other member ones. Okay. Yeah, I think we're good to move on here. Like Doug Joseph says he watches Doug and others because it's different stuff. And that's the thing. Yeah, I think that's, we all have our own, and this goes for anybody, we all have our own take on things. We have our own, perspectives, our own opportunities, different opportunities. And there's nothing about that. It's not about the way Doug reviews cars. It's not about, the cars he gets or anything. Lots of awesome stuff. There's other stuff that, is the stuff that I have taken issue with in the past, but I will leave it at that. And thank you once again, Evolving, for the very, very generous super chat. I really, really appreciate it. And feel free, if you have any other questions in the email, they're more specific, feel free to shoot me an email, and we can chat a little more if you want. But let me see. So getting back to the other member questions here. Let me see, where was I? TF5PW says, Mitsubishi Mirage is mentioned. Yeah, they are. I've never driven one, so I can't, can't technically bash the Mirage, but it's an interesting little vehicle. I'm amazed it's still available. Let me see, where was I? All right, so actually I went back a little too far. Let me find the other questions. Bear with me here. All right. I'm almost there. Okay, so and V Nido says BMW M3 lightweight competition. Yeah, the M3s are great. The only thing about the M3s from a handling standpoint, as far as best handling sedan, I'm assuming is what you're commenting on there, is that they're just a little tail happy. And for a while there, they had grip, but whenever I was reviewing M2s, like they were really impressive, but they always seemed a little overpowered in a lot of cases. Like they weren't the best at putting power down. And so that to me kind of detracted from the handling slightly. Excuse me. But still fantastic cars. And Jordan Gargan says, you're gushing when you're reviewing the Evo 10. Yeah, and Evo 10 is definitely one of the ones that's very high up there. It is really, really good handling. So that is I mean, they were one of the first ones to do like a torque vectoring thing with the yaw sensors and stuff. I mean, it's amazing how Mitsubishi was like in the 80s, they were living in like the 2020s, and like it was expensive. I mean, I'm talking about the 3000 GTs, VR4, and all those things with, rear wheel steer, torque vectoring, crazy twin turbo, motors and all this stuff. Like, it's so crazy how far they have fallen. I think Mitsubishi takes the cake as like them. I mean, Nissan's still kind of up there because they're still doing the GTR and stuff like that. So I don't even think Nissan qualifies. It's just Mitsubishi. Like, they were like right there with like GTR level tech. Like, and then, imagine like Nissan not doing GTR anymore and only doing Mirages and, Outlanders and stuff like that. Like, it's crazy how Mitsubishi used to be awesome. And I mean, they just, and I do have to say, I mean, I just spent some time in an Outlander. I'm doing a review on that here. I'll be posting that in about a week and a half. Spoiler alert, I like it a lot, actually. So I don't think Mitsubishi's all bad, but man, I mean, like, to go from stuff in the 80s and the 90s with rear wheel steer, with torque vectoring and all that stuff, the amazing Evos, to where they are now, it's really a heartbreaking thing to watch, Linda says, I'm just popping in to say hi. I'll be listening. Thanks for joining in, Linda. And let me see. And Al says, best handling four-door CT5V. Okay, yeah, I appreciate everyone helping me out with refreshing my memory here on everything I've experienced. That is really, really good. CT5V is very good. I think from a pure handling standpoint, CT4V Blackwing is actually slightly better just because it's lighter and, it's a little smaller. That is also very high up there. Okay, so we're compiling a list here slowly for a Trend Car Guy. So yeah, I'd say Evo 10, Julia, and CT4, and I mean CT5E Blackwing is also very good. That was I think the fastest I have gone through a corner was in the CT5E Blackwing on that launch event. We were at VIR, and it was either 135 or 155. There was a kink on the one back straight, and I had my foot flat to the floor through that kink at that speed. I'm guessing it was probably 135, 155. I think I might have hit 155 in that, but I don't know if it was on that part in particular. But I mean, I was flying in the thing. To have that much confidence to be foot to the floor at 135 when you're like this, like turned, I mean, it's a hell of a car. And it's, yeah. So CT5V Blackwing is also very high up there for sure. Cadillac's, all the Alpha chassis stuff doesn't get nearly enough recognition or nearly enough love. I know, Car and Driver always names it a 10 best every year and stuff. I mean, so it gets some, good press. We all love it in the press, but it's just like, it doesn't resonate with buyers. Everyone just rather would loaf around in an M5 or something, and like, they're fine too. They have their place. But like me, all day, every day, I would take a Cadillac over the Europeans, hands down. Give me a CT4V Blackwing or CT5V Blackwing over anything. I mean, over any, I mean, I haven't driven all the newest, highest stuff, but as far as, they're way more fun. I mean, I love like the RS6 Avant, and that's kind of in a separate class being a wagon, but like over any of those other, M5s, RS6s, RS7s, like hands down better in a CT5V Blackwing or CT4V Blackwing, again, talking about whatever segment you're talking about, but love those things to death. Absolutely love them. They are so, so good. Anyway, the vendor, thanks for joining in. And let me see. All right, I see another joke here from two about Doug. Ludacris says, I've always been curious how cars from 20 plus years ago would perform 0 to 60, lateral G, etc. with modern fresh rubber. The tire technology has come a long way. Yes, very true. And that's actually a really good idea for like a full-blown like separate channel of just like, let's put new tire. I mean, that'd be an expensive channel because you have to put new, you have to have like Tire Rack do that or something. But I'd love to see, yeah, someone with deep pockets like buy brand new tires, throw them on every epic thing from the past few years and do a back-to-back test. That would be fascinating. That'd be a really good idea. It'd be a ton of work. Sounds like a Savage East kind of project or something, as they're gluttons for punishment, but that would be an amazing, amazing comparison to do, even just to do it with, a handful of things, pick an S2000, old Type R's or something. I don't even know, or even go further back to stuff from the 80s, 90s. That'd be really cool to see. I mean, the few that I've reviewed, that are older cars that had newer tires on them, I mean, it was kind of, even those were really impressive. And even stuff that like, not only was like, like not the best back then, but just like from a safety standpoint. I mean, like, 20 years ago, Lamborghini Murcielagos on the Pirellis, like they were really kind of sketchy with the handling back then. And I believe they had Pirellis on them from the factory back then. But now with modern tires, like a Murcielago might not actually be a bad handling car anymore. I mean, not they were terrible; they were really good compared to the Diablo and stuff that came before it. But like I wonder, yeah, like how many of these would have even been safer? Like Carrera GT is a great example as well, where they were really sketchy when they first came out. Even I can't remember one of the famous racing drivers, if it was I can't remember who it was like terrified of driving it at the Nürburgring because it was really sketchy, and that was something that was cited in the lawsuit that I think Paul Walker's daughter even did with that whole thing. I mean, that clearly was those tires were old, I think is the general consensus, and that was the problem. Make sure your tires are not more than 8 years old. Replace your tires regardless of the tread life, because old tires are not grippy tires, and I've experienced that firsthand as well. But anyway, yeah, it'd be a really fascinating idea. Totally agree. And Jazz says most luxurious sedan that is not a luxury brand for 2024. In the past, probably K900, but mine was totaled. I bought that vehicle after seeing a review. Yeah, the K900 was great. Most luxurious sedan that's not a luxury brand. See if I can quickly come up with an answer for this one. I mean, I guess it depends on what your definition of luxurious is, but I would say a fully loaded Honda Accord, the new Honda Accords, they are like 90s Cadillac smooth while still having really good handling, and they're really plush. There's padding everywhere. You have the great technology. I think the new Accord is phenomenal. I think, again, I've said this in the past weekly updates, so I don't need to harp on everything again, but yeah, I think that absolutely is probably my top pick. If you want something that's a really comfy cruiser, get a new Accord that's loaded up. That'd be a great pick. Sorry, I'm missing the super chats here. I apologize. Two says, hope you're good with Saab Kyle after his live. Yeah, no, Saab Kyle, I mean, I haven't talked to Kyle in many months now, but every time we've chatted, he's awesome. Me and him go way back. We're kind of in the same boat where we're very old channels that really struggle to get views these days. Even though, I mean, he's got way more subscribers than I do. I really feel bad because there's sometimes he gets similar views to me and he's got more than double the subscribers. And it's just, we're both kind of in this glass ceiling kind of thing where it's like, no matter how hard we try to push through that glass ceiling, it's just like, it's really tough. And I don't want to blame the algorithm. It really is, just not keeping up with the competition in a lot of ways. But at least for me, I'm not talking for Kyle, but I mean, he still does really unique stuff that only Kyle can really do. But as far as my channel, I can understand it. But with him, it's just a real shame that like he's not being rewarded for the work that he's putting in. And I hope things get better for him. I would love to someday figure out what's going on with the way YouTube. I think it's just the way YouTube's changed everything. It's just, yeah, they've made a lot of changes, and it's just unfortunate for sure. Anyway, Robert, thank you so much for the super chat as well. He says, hey, Matt, love your channel. What's your opinion on dealer markups versus market forces? Are there certain instances where it's okay to pay over? So, like we were just talking a little bit earlier here about, someone who paid a markup on their Integra Type S. My opinion on, market forces, like obviously we're in a free market. I have respect for that. If you're the only person in town with the hottest thing out there and, some person's willing to pay you crazy amounts of money for it, I mean, more power to you, I guess. I think, whenever you're price gouging the early adopters, I have a little bit of a less issue with that because like, if the guy that wants to be the first person in his city with whatever car and he wants to pay a premium for it and he's got money to burn and a dealer wants to profit off of that, whatever. I think that the issue that I have is whenever dealers treat every single one of a certain vehicle as gold and are trying to price gouge all of them. This is why we see no Nissan Z's on the road. Everyone always comments, I've never seen a Z. I've never seen a Z on the road either. And it's crazy. They've been out for 2 years now, and none of us have seen a Z on the road. It's because they're all being held hostage by the Nissan dealers that haven't had anything exciting for a while. And I mean, there's some production stuff I think on the Z as well that's holding it up a little bit, but they're building them. It's just that no one's buying them because, I think it's not. I think there's some other issues with the Z, but I think overall, it's just even the people who wanted them were just soured by the dealer experiences and stuff. And and there was the same thing with GR Corolla. So much hype for GR Corolla when it came out, and then everyone was like, "Oh, well, they're all 10 or 15 grand over," and now no one cares about GR Corollas anymore because they, just assume that they're going to be 10 grand over for the rest of eternity. And it's like, no, like they're out there for MSRP now. So I don't like rewarding dealers that do markups. And, again, it all comes down to everything is worth a different amount to every person. There's some people like, oh, I do a review on a Audi RS6. Like, oh, I'd only pay 20 grand for that. There's wild differences as far as what something is worth to that person and what they're willing to pay for it. And if you can find a dealer that lines up with whatever, you're willing to pay and what your time is worth, if you don't want to do a cross-country road trip and it's worth paying, a markup for that convenience, and getting what you want still, this year and not next year or something, I think that, again, it just comes down to how much money you've got to spend. Personally, I avoid markups like the plague. I will inconvenience myself to the nth degree, whatever it takes, to not pay a markup. Our Mach-E last year, I know it's crazy to say here these days, but our Mach-E, everyone wanted 5 or 10 grand over for Mach-Es in the summer of 2022. I went out of state to another dealer, and it's a pain because you got to pay separate sales tax in PA here, and you got to do a plate transfer, and it's a whole thing. It's a pain, but I was like, okay, we're gonna go 2 hours, and this is also with a at that point a 1-year-old baby. We're gonna drive a few hours to go get this Mach-E at a dealer that was charging MSRP, that was straight up, straightforward, and I wanted to reward them. And I actually was able to talk to the owner, and he's like, yeah, we don't need to do them, we do enough volume. He's like, we would rather do more cars. Ford likes that obviously better anyway, so we get rewarded with more allocations, better allocations, and we're still making the same or more money, and we're not pissing people off in the meantime. And I wish I could have had him do a TED talk for every dealer in the country. I mean, obviously, again, everyone's got different situations and different dealers have different, things to work with. But I was like wanting to, do cartwheels in the showroom for him, because I'm just like, yes, like this is, what I've been, shouting from the rooftops. Do the volume, and it will hopefully work itself out, I would assume, and I'm not a dealer owner. I can't pretend like I know it all or anything, but it's just like, it's just hard to rationalize some of these markups that are still lingering to this day. And so I love road tripping. I bought the EcoBoost out of state. I bought the first GT that was like an hour away, but it was at least in PA. The second GT I bought in Chicago, and the Bullet I bought in Ohio, and then the Mach-E we bought in Ohio as well. So like most of the past cars I've bought in the past 10 years have been out of state, because guess what? Dealers wanted to charge markups for the Bullets. Dealers wanted to, play hardball on GTs and stuff even around me, and all the dealers around me sucked. And so even if they weren't charging markups, I didn't want to buy from them because I knew that their service department was garbage, or they just, were not good people I wanted to give money to. And so I inconvenienced myself a bunch, to get what I wanted and make sure that I was rewarding the right people. And so for me, I mean, and again, that's everyone's differences, but I love doing a road trip home in a new car. It's so much fun that your first drive away from the dealer and you're doing however many hours, driving home. It's a fun trip. It's a fun way to, either, work out a little mini vacation or just have some fun, is doing a road trip. I love road trips. And so if I got to do one to get a car at a good price, 100%, that's what I'm going to do. So that's my thoughts. Thank you so much for the super chat, Robert, as well. And yeah, I mean, it's all going to come down to what it's worth it to that buyer. I'm not, some people it's worth it, and I don't want to judge them for that. But for me personally, I just really, avoid it like the plague. Getting back to the other member questions here. I apologize again for everyone that's been waiting so long for your questions here. So let me quickly get caught up. So Jordan said, way back in the day, Kia had a deal that if you bought a van, you would receive a free Rio. Any idea how they were able to pull that off? I'm guessing they had a good enough margin on that van, and those Rios were old enough, they're costing them money to sit on the lot. And that's probably the justification there, because there is a cost to keeping a car on a lot. It's I can't remember the name of the amount, or I can't remember what it's called. I'm sure someone that works at a dealer can probably chime in here, but there's a cost to keep stuff around on inventory, because a lot of the inventory is financed. So most of these dealers don't pay cash for their inventory. They have a running line of credit to buy their stuff, and so that's how if that this car is sitting, they're racking up those interest rates themselves, and so it gets to a point where they're losing more money than they'll ever make, and so they just offload them. Anyway, B Mitchell says, Matt, more of a message is to special order your new vehicle. The Lincoln LS lost the optional manual for the V6 when dealers wouldn't stock them. I even had a dealer who refused to order one for me. That's another great, definitely, special order to send the exact message. Great advice as well. Jordan, thank you so much for your first super chat. I really appreciate it. And Kyle, I see you just gifted 5 memberships as well. Floor plan. Thank you, Greg, for that. Yeah, the floor plan costs, are kind of one of those things that will kind of really get a fire under the dealer's butt to get something off their lot if, that's been racking up, some extra expenses for them. But thank you so much, Kyle, for the generosity every week. I really appreciate it. And I'm sure all those members do as well. I see Joe finally got gifted one. I know Joe was commenting and trying to get into the memberships here for a while. So congrats, Joe, especially for getting one there. And also Paul and others. Thanks so much for being here and being able to get those memberships. And thanks once again, Kyle. And Jordan, thank you so much for your first super chat. I really appreciate it. He said, would it cut down on the cost if there was an American built vehicle, 100% in-house, wires, nuts, bolts, frame, etc., without outsourcing globally? I don't think so, just because labor is more expensive here. And so that's why everyone does things elsewhere, because you can do it for a fraction of the price. And even with the shipping and all that, it's still way cheaper. Now it's not as green to do it that way, because again, all the transportation costs for all that stuff. But as far as, I really doubt, there's any way to do it cheaper in-house 100%, just because there's so many countries willing to do it for way less than an American's willing to show up for work. So I think that's just the reality. So I think that's probably why that stuff continues to be done elsewhere. All right, let me get back to their member questions here. Where was I? I gotta skip past the Doug stuff here again, since we already covered that. All right. A second. Jordan's also asking, was Audi the first to introduce LED headlights and taillights? If not, who? I have no clue. I honestly don't know the answer to that question. Sorry, I don't have an answer for you there. But Audi's definitely one of the first to do the LED daytime running lights, I think. But I'm not sure about the headlights and the taillights there. Truck and Car Guy says, I've noticed a diffuser on the back of the 24 Corolla that isn't on the 23, but that could just be a particular trim. Interesting. Yeah, I thought the SEs and XSEs kind of had a little bit of a diffuser, but if it's maybe a little different on the 24s, I don't know. I'll have to check that out and see. I believe the press car I'm getting is going to be a 24, so I'll see if there's anything on that that's different. Ludacris says average price of a new car is $50,000 now. Yeah, which is just insane. That bubble is going to pop. That cannot be sustainable unless everyone gets a giant raise, which they're not. So that is. I don't know how long that's going to keep up for, but I guarantee you that cannot be sustainable. It will not be sustainable. There's no iffiness about that. You can't keep that up. You can't do it. So we'll see what happens. But I think there's gonna be a lot of repos in 2024. That rate's already rising. I think that's just an inevitable thing. Everyone's biting off more than they can chew. And it's going to come to a head at some point. And maybe it won't be all at once. And I'm not saying there's going to be some kind of recession or anything. I know it's a very popular thing. Everyone's hoping for a housing crash next year and for a car crash, as far as car prices crashing next year and all that stuff. I don't know about any of that, but I feel like, you can't have people buying $50,000 cars for the average, American salary. It doesn't work out. The math doesn't work. So anyway, B. Mitchell says, on incentives way back in 1979, not quite the Stone Age, I'll never forget when a Lincoln Mercury dealer gave every buyer of a Continental Mark V a new Mercury Bobcat. Oh, that was also, again, another one that had a giant profit margin, I'm sure. So I guess that was the way. But that's wild. I never heard about that. So thank you for the little historical tidbit there. That's pretty cool. Raphael says, I think my tipping point will be when there are a lot more chargers, when I can stop anywhere like I can with my gas car. Electric is on the radar. Yeah, and I think that's going to be the way it is going to be for a lot of people. And that makes sense. Kevin says, hey, Matt, would you ever consider rebranding your channel back to WX Fan? It seems like everything old is new again. So that might be a cool way to play off the nostalgia and maybe capture some new subscribers. Possibly, I think a lot of people miss it, but I don't know how much that would move the needle from a channel standpoint, I actually, a fun little kind of experiment in a way was I put out the Super Dorks fan baseball hat that I put out, and it's in the merch. There might be like a shelf here on this video even of that shows the merch you can buy and all that stuff. And I was like, there's people that said they wanted to get a Super Dorks fan hat. So I was like, okay, cool. Like it's easy for me to do that because like I can just literally upload that logo. And unfortunately, the Matt Maran Motoring logo is too hard for Spring as the company I use for the merch for them to embroider that on a hat. That's why I don't have hats with the current name, but I was able to do it for the Super Works fan name. So I was like, sure. So I posted that up on the store, and made a post like, hey, you can get a Super Works fan hat if you're nostalgic and you want one. And I think like 3 people bought them. So it wasn't to me that sent a clear message. Like maybe there's a few people that are nostalgic about it, and I even was kind of curious with this WX review that I just did. I did the Super Works fan intro on that one, and I got a lot of comments. People really enjoyed that, but it didn't bring old Super WX fan subscribers out of the woodwork or anything. Like that video is sitting at like 6,000 views. It did terribly, honestly. I was actually really surprised it did as badly as it did. But so the little feelers that I've put out about how people are, if people are nostalgic about the name and the old, kind of stuff that I did on the channel, it doesn't seem like there's really that much of it. Again, there's those of you who are hanging out here in the live streams and my real core fans that, I know are really, really supportive. But as far as the general, like, beyond a few thousand, which I know is still a lot of people, but beyond that, as far as actual, for a channel of 445,000 subscribers, I figured more than 6,000 would be excited about me reviewing a WX, but unfortunately with the algorithm, it doesn't even get shown to all of my subscribers. The impressions, which is, people who actually at least just see the thumbnail or the title, that's never even remotely close to the amount of subscribers I have. So it's like, and that also counts for impressions for random people who never have watched the channel before. I only get about roughly like 30 to 40% of my views come from subscribers. Most of them are non-subscribers still. So it's like, you take whatever the tiny number of impressions is and then divide that by half or more, are the people who actually are subscribers seeing my stuff anymore. So it really sucks the way YouTube, has constructed everything these days, because it's like I've worked hard to try and build a subscriber base, and subscribers these days are completely meaningless. There's channels with 10,000 subscribers that are getting way more views than I am. So it's just the way it is. You got to really just play the algorithm. And if you're able to really get something that people resonate with, and they can get that message sent to the algorithm, this is a really good video they should push, then they push it to more subscribers. But I feel like even my really popular videos have never been pushed to all of my subscribers. It's like crazy. So anyway, just one of the other little annoying parts of doing this as a job. But anyway, yes, I feel like there's no reason to really go back. And also, if I went back to the WX fan thing, that all the car companies that work with me would probably quit working with me, because that was the holdup, was like, we can't be inviting someone with Subaru fan in their name to our events. We don't want a Subaru fan reviewing anything that's not a Subaru, because then it implies some bias that I like Subarus, and therefore that's going to taint my review of this whatever car I'm doing. So I think that's why I can never go back to that name. And it makes sense, because it implies bias. I mean, if you watch the channel back then, you should know that I never was biased. I always was like, this is awesome, and this is better than a WX. I said in my Evo 10 review, this handles better than an STI. So I mean, even way back then, I've always been totally honest and blunt and unbiased, even though again, people have made their own conclusions, before then and since then. But that's just unfortunately definitely not ever going to go back to the old name. But Trent Car Guy says, I look forward to watching the normal folk waiting at lines for a charge, much like us truckers have to do for the longest time. Hopefully there won't be too much of that. We will see, because I think with the way society is and culture is these days, people waiting in lines, we know that is not a good recipe. So I don't think it'll be sustainable if people are waiting in lines. I'm hoping we get enough chargers that scale up faster than the EV adoption scales up, so that we don't have lines. Because I mean, already next year when these Tesla chargers open up, buckle up for the viral videos, because it's going to be all kinds of chaos, I'm sure. I'm hoping not, but it's just the way human nature is these days. I'm not, especially in America, I'm not hoping, not super optimistic about people being civilized. But 3 Turbo says, I definitely did not future-proof my name. I haven't posted since I traded the 3 Turbo for my Mustang, though. Yeah, it's I'm a lot of people do it, and I totally get it because you're thinking in the here and the now, and you're not planning on it becoming some giant thing or becoming your career or whatever. But if you are, definitely just make sure it's something that's future proofed. Austin says, I think a small amount of levity is an important component in car reviews, makes it more engaging for me. And B Mitchell says a vote for a Matt Maran. Okay, well, yeah, maybe we'll try to do that next year. But thanks for chiming in with that, B Mitchell. And yeah, I agree, Austin, about the levity there, and that's something I always try and do. Three Turbo says, why wait till a new year to change things? Just change as soon as you're ready. Yeah, I think I like doing the ideas, like the new, like bringing up new ideas in that year-end video, because I feel like those are typically more of my core fans that are watching those, and I really value those opinions. And so outside of doing these live streams, I think that's a really good way to kind of get some feedback from people, because I think a lot of these live streams, being 2 hours long really turns off a lot of people. They never click on them because they're like, oh, I'm not starting a 2 hour long video. And that's, I totally get it. I don't have 2 hours usually to kill on, YouTube anyway. So I totally get it. But, so I think doing it in a nice, concise little video and be like, hey, here's the things I'm thinking about for next year, and doing that. I mean, I've done a lot of experiments this year just to like try new kinds of videos to see if there's anything that might resonate with people. I did at the beginning of this year, you might remember my used car bargains, and I covered a few of those. And those, it started, the first couple were like a little promising, and then they kind of seemed like that idea kind of fizzled out pretty fast. I tried to do the junkyard walk with pull apart. That was, I love walking around junkyards. Like if I was just doing videos strictly for fun, I would just do like only like sports cars and walk around junkyards. Like that would, like, if I was like just doing like a channel with no regard for views, like that would probably be how I would construct it. I love walking around junkyards. So I posted that video. I was really hoping that like that would resonate, and then that just did terribly. And I'm like, all right, well, I guess I won't hang out at junkyards anymore. So I did try to do some stuff without asking people beforehand, just trying new stuff and seeing what happened. Unfortunately, those experiments seemed like they didn't really pay off. The only one that really paid off experiment wise this year was getting into the used stuff more, which for the Impala SS video, which is now like 200,000 views, I think my biggest hit this year. That one I was like, oh sweet, people want to see old sporty stuff. And then I did other old sporty stuff, not as sporty admittedly, but like the TLX, the TL, and some of those other things, the great used bargain of a 2020 BMW 540i, things like that. And those didn't do super well views wise. So I'm still committed to doing the used affordable stuff regardless of the view counts, because I think it's important. So that's something I'm still going to forge ahead with. But usually when I try experiments, they don't really pan out for me. I'm hoping to still keep experimenting in 2024, and that's what I'll be talking about. But doing those feelers in that year-end video is kind of a good way to gauge, is this something I should even bother doing one video on or not, before I kind of commit to changing some stuff. But anyway, let me get caught up on more member questions here. I know we only got 15 minutes. Time has been flying, but I hope you guys have been enjoying the live stream here. But try and get caught up here. Let me see. I'm skipping over some of the other stuff here. So, Trucking Car Guy says, bias aside, I would love to see Mitsubishi get its groove back and come back. Yeah, like we were talking about earlier as well. Doug Joseph says, Matt, have you ever driven a Fox Body Mustang? What are your thoughts on its size and weight compared to your S550? So I did do I think it was a 92 Mustang, and the reviews on there. So I didn't title it anything about Fox Body, but if you look up, like the 90s Mustang, or just search Mustang review on the channel, Mustang GT review. I did do one. Fox bodies are interesting. They're very, very much more crude, really old school. I mean, super heavy clutch, like leg workout, heavy clutch. Very hard to be smooth with. The shifters, as long as, a pickup truck. It's just like all these things that to me, I didn't love it, because it's honestly it's a more challenging car to drive quickly and to try to get the most out of it. I mean, S550 feels like a UFO compared to a Fox Body. I mean, it is miles more advanced in every way. It's more capable in every way. It is just heads and shoulders if you would have had someone back in the Fox body days drive, or even a current person who's never driven anything newer than a Fox body, and they're like a Fox body owner that, has lived in a cave and has only driven Fox bodies over the past 30 years, and you put them in an S550, I mean, they like probably wouldn't be able to process what's happening. I mean, it's that much better. It's so, I mean, you lose some of the rawness, you lose some of the connection, you lose some of the sketchiness. I know Fox body is way more sketchy, and some people, they like that thrill of, being on the edge more. And so, there's some redeeming qualities there. Obviously, they're more affordable and all that as well. But I mean, S550 is, it's just a whole nother league, and then some. So, but I mean, the Fox bodies have their own charm, just like any other old car. They have their own charm. But yeah, for me, Fox bodies, I've never loved the Fox bodies. I can appreciate them. I like their place in history. The fact that, Ford listened to all the people with angry pitchforks whenever, they were trying to do the probe as the new Mustang, and they're like, oh wait, this isn't going to fly with people. And then they rushed out the Fox body stuff instead. And I, really like that part of Ford history where they were receptive to, consumer feedback a little bit more and were reactive to that pretty quickly. Yeah, S550 is definitely the better one for sure. Fook says, I wish we could gift YouTube memberships to specific people. I would give Doug one for you. That's funny. Austin says, Matt, do you think Elon will ever do special versions of Teslas complete with special Twitter X privileges? Gotcha. So special X versions of Teslas. Who knows? Oh, yeah. I mean, if anyone can predict what Elon's going to do next, you're the top tier fortune teller, I think, because who knows what that guy's going to do next. But let me see. So, Two says, did you hear Elon's buying MySpace? He's going to call it Y. That's pretty funny. Yeah, MySpace does still exist, believe it or not. Yeah, that's pretty funny stuff. Dave says, one of my cars is a 2013 on original tires, noticeably hard and noisy and cracks around circumference between treads. Yeah, that is, I mean, I guess if there's some reason you're keeping it on the original tires, for collectible reasons or something. Other than that, yeah, definitely swap those, and especially like cracked tires. Like, I mean, not only is it bad for performance, but like blowouts and all kinds of stuff. Definitely, the second you see a crack in a tire, it's gone. Like, you got to get rid of it because it's definitely not safe. Yeah, I see Austin's saying the same thing there. Yeah, you definitely want to get rid of those tires. Thank you so much. I see. I'm sorry, I missed the other super chat, Robert. For some reason, they're not coming through. But thank you so much, Robert, for another super chat. There, he says, "Who has a?" This is also your 10th. I see YouTube's telling me. So thank you so much for 10 super chats, Robert. He says, "Who has a better overall product, Honda or Toyota?" Overall product. So I think as far as it's really hard to group because there's so much diversity in their own lineups that there's some things that Honda does better than Toyota. I think there's some things that Toyota does better than Honda. So it's kind of a draw, I guess, cumulatively. So it comes down to the segment you're talking about. So I can just rattle off quickly. I think Civic is better than Corolla. Again, I'm not factoring in price or anything or value. I'm just factoring in which one is the nicer, better car, regardless of money. I can say Civic I like better than Corolla. I like Accord better than Camry currently. I haven't driven the new Camry coming out next year yet, but as of old Camry versus new Accord's the easy winner there. And then when you go up to, because Toyota has so many other things that Honda doesn't even really compete with, but when you go up to the crossovers, I'd say I like HRV better than Corolla Cross, but Corolla Cross has a better powertrain than HRV. So that's kind of a draw. I would say these days I actually like RAV4, even though it's older. I like it better than CRV because it offers more things than CRV offers. CRV has a bunch of misses. There's no cooled seats. There's no pano roof. Small-ish screen. I guess it's comparable to the RAV4, but with the Hyundai and the Kia being so much better with their screens and stuff. Anyway, I think RAV4 has the Prime version, which is really awesome, and so I think RAV4 to me over CRV. And then, we will see with the Crown Signia, that's going to kind of compete with the Passport in a way because Venza doesn't really compete because it's not big enough. When you go up to Pilot versus, I think Grand Highlander is better than Pilots, but I think Pilot's better than regular Highlander. So again, it's kind of a back and forth with everything. I think that Ridgeline is brilliant for people who, don't need super epic truck capabilities. But I think we, are looking at the truck portfolio. Obviously, Toyota's got a stronger truck portfolio. Um, and then minivan wise, I think Sienna is more in tune with what modern minivan buyers need and want with the all-wheel drive option and stuff, the hybrid option. Honda is still doing it old school with the front-wheel drive V6. And then what else? That's pretty much everything aside from, Honda doesn't have any sports cars. Currently they got the Type R, which is great, but as far as there's no rear-wheel drive stuff, Toyota's got, three or two rear-wheel drive things in the GR Corolla. So I think, overall, which do I like better? I would say that as a brand, I like Toyota for the products they offer. Again, just the fact they have more sports cars is honestly the main driver there for me. But, I think as far as better products, objectively, without my own opinion, brought in, it's going to depend on the car you're talking about. But hopefully that helps you a little bit there, Robert. And thank you so much again for your 10th super chat. And Jordan, thank you so much for the super chat as well. He says, with Detroit's vehicle production that's gone down in history, do you think the city would prosper again if big corporations or startups produced EVs and hybrids there? I think Detroit's really great with their manufacturing, and they do still do, there's the Rams, they have their plant there. And, that's part of like the Corktown thing that I think, Ford's doing with their Edison or whatever they call Edison Labs, their EV kind of startup-y kind of thing. I see Two's Toyota Shell comment. But I think, yeah, Detroit is really poised. I mean, it's also pretty cheap real estate right now in the greater Detroit area and stuff still. So, I mean, it would be a great place for a factory, so it's just, I think, I don't know. It seems like a lot of the Midwest is really benefiting with all these new investments with the EVs and stuff. I'm guessing land is just still even cheaper yet there than it is in Michigan. So that's, I guess, the reason why you have all of these plants going up in Alabama, Mississippi, all these random, places that, you wouldn't think would be like a hotspot for manufacturing, but I guess it's just, cheap enough labor, cheap enough land, and that's the combo they need, I guess. Yeah, I've always been rooting for Detroit. I think they're kind of another underdog. Especially again in more recent times here, and I've always loved Detroit. I've always enjoyed my times there, as I guess being a Pittsburgher, I kind of have a camaraderie with like underdog kind of cities and all that. So, I think I kind of sympathize with Detroit and the struggles that they've gone through, because Pittsburgh's gone through similar stuff with the steel town stuff. Just kind of rocking Pittsburgh, a few decades ago, and now they've reinvented themselves with, healthcare and all that. So, anyway, thank you so much, Jordan, for the super chat there. And I do hope that, yeah, more people invest in Detroit and Michigan in general. It's an awesome state from everything that I've seen so far. And Jordan, thank you so much for another super chat. Says Beetle, Neon, Element, Solstice, and Saturn EV. Yes, to all of those. Those would be all awesome. Totally agree. And all right, we got another 5 minutes or so, 4 minutes here. Try and get back to some of the member questions that get caught up here. And I apologize for all the non-members that I haven't been able to get to very many of those tonight here. Let me see where I was. Get back here quickly. So Ludacris says, looking on CarGurus, there are 363 new listings of the Z, which I take it to mean they're not selling. Wow. Well, thanks for looking that up. That's interesting. So yes, it is 100%. Either people really don't like the Z. I think they got the pricing and the packaging all wrong too, but I think that plus dealers just holding them hostage with markups, that's really sad, because I mean that's a lot of cars for a sports car to have that many out there and they're all just sitting around. It's what a shame. Kyle says, I can only imagine what the markups will be when the Ioniq 5N is released. We will see, but with the EV6 GT, there's 10 grand off on those right now. I mean, obviously there's a little more hype for the N than the EV6 GT, but we will see. I mean, they're launching it right again in this slump of EV sales. It might not be impossible to get for sticker. I don't know. I mean, we'll see. And obviously, again, there's still some decent Hyundai dealers somewhere in the country that I'm sure will probably sell them at sticker, but might be a long wait list for those. I don't know. But let me see. So Daniel says, did you hear that Mark from Savage Geese bought a Jeep Compass for his 19-year-old girlfriend only to find out she was cheating on him? I don't know if that's a joke. I don't talk to Mark super frequently, but I did just talk to him a couple of weeks ago. I'm guessing that's a joke because they just did the Jeep Compass review, right? So I think that's probably a joke, because that's he doesn't have a 19-year-old girlfriend. But that's I gotta watch their Compass review, because I think they posted a little teaser of it or something that was hilarious, and I love their videos. I don't have time. It's so annoying. I would watch everything they upload if I had the time for it. But yeah, I love Savage Geese. Mark and Jack are amazing. And I'm glad to see Joe got the membership gift there. And he says, how's Pandora Premium treating you? Terribly, as you probably would have predicted, Joe. Yeah, we talked about this in a past live stream, how I'm old school with buying music. Aside from I stream music during the holidays, so I don't want to buy all kinds of Christmas music and stuff. So I download Pandora every December, listen to Christmas music, and then delete it in January. And I did upgrade to premium again this year, hoping to and we'll just get rid of the ads, but also just to do the offline listening. And I got on the plane on Thursday, and I'm like, sweet, I got Pandora Premium here. I can, do the offline mode and listen to music. And it's like, nope, it didn't work. It was like, oh, your stuff hasn't finished downloading, but it's been like, I had the app for like weeks and it hadn't downloaded. And so yes, Pandora Premium is still garbage aside from getting rid of ads. But yep, Pandora let me down once again, but they give me the Christmas music for the month, and then, like I said, I forget about them until next December. So we have a very strained relationship, I guess, me and Pandora. But let me see. All right. So Doug Joseph says, being a YouTuber had to be one of the most stressful jobs. It just never ends. You never clock out. That's absolutely right. And let me see. So 3 Turbo says, what do you think of the S650 versus S550 versus 6th gen Camaro? Well, I stay tuned for tomorrow. I will I usually keep this stuff member exclusive. Maybe you didn't see the member schedule, but I will be having an S650 review posting tomorrow, finally, which is a big deal. I know so many people were asking for that review. So we'll end on that bombshell here. I will try and do the last few questions here, but get close to wrapping up here since we're at 2 hours. But yes, S650 review is finally coming tomorrow. And as far as comparisons, I do compare it to S550 a lot in the video, so you will hear that. So I'll save my comments for that tomorrow. Compared to 6th gen Camaro, we can come back next week and discuss after everyone has seen that video, and we can talk more about it then, because I certainly am happy to go into my thoughts on that first Camaro. I didn't talk about Camaro too much in the video since Camaro won't be on sale, after the next few months here. So it's not really relevant, unfortunately, for a modern new car buyer in 2024. But I'm happy to go into that here, and that'll be a fun thing to talk about next week if you can join 3 Turbo then. And Sean Carga said, I'd love to see a modern S2000. Yeah, me as well. Fook says, when you see a used car with a bunch of repair history, do you think that do you see that as a red flag or a green flag that has been well cared for and everything that could have gone wrong has been fixed? I mean, typically it's a red flag for me because it can be an indicator that could be a lemon, or that it's just a car that sometimes you just get a bad one. And even if it doesn't qualify for lemon law or something, if you see one that's just been in for it says electrical system checked, and then 10,000 miles later, electrical system checked, things like that, that's where it's like, okay, well, this is probably what I need to stay away from. Yes, they keep checking it, and I'm sure they, do fixes or whatever the case is, but it just, to me, I don't want to be anywhere near a car that has had a problematic past. Even if it has been fixed or whatever. And that same thing goes for accidents and stuff like that, because you never know how well has it been fixed. Same thing, with electrical systems and stuff. How well was the dealership diagnosing this stuff? Was it actually fixed? Was it fixed well? Did they break a bunch of clips in the dash whenever they were pulling stuff out for the electrical system, and now it rattles like crazy? All those types of things, you have to worry about. So I usually just if it's not a squeaky clean, perfect Carfax with timely oil changes and all the usual stuff, and that's it, I usually stay away personally. And I see 2's other comments here. And let me see quickly. Thanks for joining in, Elijah. Doug Joseph says, I gotta start saying Doug Joseph so people don't be like, oh wait, is Doug here? Doug Joseph says, if you don't get to it tonight, next week you can answer this. What is your Mount Rushmore of cars? We can cover that next week if you'll be here next week, Doug, since we're over time. But as far as I'm guessing you mean the top cars, I will get into that too at the end of the year video here. I'll go over my favorite 10 here this past year, if that kind of will answer your question as well. But in the meantime, Yeah, thanks for joining in, everyone. Yeah, we've kind of caught up here on all the comments. So yeah, thanks so much, everyone, for joining in here on the live stream. Hope you all have a great week ahead of you here. Hope you're enjoying the holiday season here. And yeah, look forward to chatting with you. Next week might be the last live stream too, since the next few weekends are gonna be taken up with the Christmas holiday here, and then also with New Year's. I will see. I may be able to still work something out at least for Christmas. For New Year's, I'm gonna be hosting some friends, so I'm not going to be able to do that. So next week, maybe the last live stream. So definitely tune in if you can for that. And but yeah, thank you so much, everyone, for joining in and for the generosity here with the gifting and the super chats and all that. I really appreciate the support. And yeah, so stay tuned. I've got some good stuff this week. Like I mentioned S650, but also Blazer EV. That embargo drops on Wednesday. So another car. I know not everyone's crazy about EVs, but I think that's one that is worth checking out from at least a review standpoint. Because I think there's some interesting stuff there that will be interesting to cover. So anyway, thank you all very much once again for watching the live stream. Have a great week, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Take care. And I gotta find my button here. All right, here we go. See you guys.